LinkedIn. Good morning, Facebook. Good morning, YouTube. Good morning, everyone out there. Coming up on today's show, in a few moments, we have Mr. Matt Huggett, followed by Tom Connor, and last but not least, Mr. Nicholas Holmes. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, Mr. Hatcher. Good morning, LinkedIn. Good morning, YouTube. Good morning, Facebook. Good morning, the world.
Happy days.
Happy days.
Yes. Been another good week, isn't it?
Yeah, we're reversed. Normally, it's that way around.
Okay. All right.
Very good. Very nice.
In the studio this morning.
Your chair. Very comfy. Yeah, it's been a busy old week. It's been a great week, actually. At the club.
Yes.
Good things are happening.
Absolutely. So we'll go into the sort of new members in a minute, but if anyone's watching out there, if they'd like to ask any questions today or want to shout out or like to say anything, just please do pop your questions or statements or whatever it is in the comments, and we'll give you a shout out or ask the questions. And looking forward to a good show today. So before we get our first guest in, I think it's probably time, Ed, that we sort of go through the new members of the club. What do you think?
Well, I think we can do that. I would love to welcome each and every one firmly by the virtual paw.
Okay, fantastic. Let me just get it up quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, just 1 second, Ed. All right, here we go. Let's hit this button. You take it away first, Ed, and I'll swiftly follow on afterwards. So here we go.
I'd like to say a really warm welcome to Alan Edwards, who's joined Royal Wootton Bassett HQ. Andrew, you're muted, but I'd like to also welcome David Hawes, who's also joined Royal Wootton Bassett HQ.
Fantastic. And I'd like to welcome back Miss Paula Power. Hello, Paula. Great to see you back at the club after a few months. You joined Quest West.
And then I'd like to welcome Mark Alinan, who has joined Cobra TT over in the Isle of Man. So welcome there, Mark. Good to see you.
Yeah, welcome, Mark. And then I'd like to welcome Goyozo Faras Gandiaga, who's joined RWB HQ. Fantastic. Good to see you.
Charles Smith has joined the ranks of Cobra M40, who've been busy this week, because we also have
Emma Horner, who has also joined Cobra M40. So welcome into the club, guys. Great to get to know you in the early days of the club, and looking forward to finding more about your business.
Yeah, really exciting.
Yes. So, Ed, I think it's probably time to get our first distinguished guest in, and maybe then we'll bring in Matt afterwards.
That sounds good to me. Sounds very good to me.
Now we can see Matt down in the green room, who's eating all the peanuts. Hello, Matt.
Yes, I told him before you like this.
Yes. So here we go. Let's get Matt in after this quick VT. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning,
Matt. How are you?
Thank you very much for welcoming me into your virtual homes.
Into our mad world that we inhabit.
Yes. Although I do feel a little bit out of place because I don't have a branded T-shirt on, or at least not a Cobra Club branded T-shirt.
These have to be earned, my friend.
Do they?
These are.
So they can't be purchased.
They can be, actually.
Yes.
For a fee, anything is possible, Matt.
Fantastic. So, Matt, I wonder if you could tell us, we normally start these things by asking the question really is sort of where you've come from. Tell us a bit about your journey, anything sort of personal or anything you want to share, leading up to where you are now with your business. And what is your business?
Okay. Well, where have I come from? Well, it's been quite a long journey for me because, well, first of all, let's cut to the chase. I'm an employment lawyer. So how did I get to be an employment lawyer is really that I've tried to avoid becoming a lawyer for quite some time, actually, because I was working originally in sort of an HR area. And and was married to a lawyer at the time, and the law didn't seem particularly attractive. But then I realised that the job I wanted to do was talking about employment law and advising on employment law, and so I thought, damn it, I'm going to have to go and get qualified now, aren't I? So it wasn't until my sort of late 20s, early 30s that I began all of my legal exams, my legal qualifications, and then eventually became obviously an employment lawyer and was working for an organisation then called EEF, which is an employers organisation, which has, when I was there, it had lots and lots of really good companies to work for. And then I eventually became lead lawyer for the key accounts there. So I was dealing with some rather large global blue chip manufacturing and engineering organizations. And then about 3.5 years ago, then decided to enter the world of self-employment, and have now set up my employment law practice with Carbon Law Partners. And so currently in the process of obviously building up that practice and establishing my own client base. So yeah, that's the sort of journey that has been also not your traditional journey into law. So hopefully, and at least this is what I like to think, that that makes me a more rounded person. But I'm sure that other employment lawyers would disagree with me wholeheartedly that they're not well rounded.
Fantastic.
We had this discussion before we started. After a year on Zoom, we're all quite well-rounded.
We are very well-rounded now, yes. And getting more well-rounded with every passing day.
That's me.
So what's the... employment law, it's just a massive field, isn't it? I mean, there's so many pitfalls.
Yeah.
What's the sort of typical common cases you come across, or is everything so different?
It varies quite considerably, but it varies quite considerably, but underneath it all, people are people, and people have disputes with people, and of course in business and in employment, some people are more successful than others. So some people get promoted and others don't. Some people get poor performance ratings and others get great ones, and so on and so forth. So there is naturally, therefore, a position that someone could take where they feel upset or aggrieved or just feeling like they're treated in a slightly detrimental way to others. Because, of course, employers are always going to treat people differently, because if you don't treat people differently, then everyone just falls down to the lowest common denominator, don't they?
Yeah.
So there's always an air of grievance when there is a problem. And so, how that is manifested in terms of whether it's just general unfair treatment or whether it's tied into discrimination in some way. And that's then when it begins to get particularly tricky and complicated, because, of course, there are a number of what we call protected characteristics, and it's a difficult and tricky area. But yes, of course, over the last year, we've seen, the last 18 months or so, we've seen a lot of challenges, a lot of new challenges in this area because of COVID and working from home, health and safety at work, and so on and so forth. And of course, redundancies that have particularly hit a number of the sectors, and certainly in my experience with the clients I've dealt with over the last 18 months, obviously, particularly in hospitality and also in the aerospace sector as well. So it varies. It's always interesting because people are people. There's always a story behind every complaint or every issue.
Is there a huge backlog now with the courts and people actually starting to take actions? And I know they're doing a lot. Forgive me, you know the terminology better than me, but virtually, aren't they, with the camera court systems?
Yes.
But is it years yet, or is it months?
Well, yes. I mean, I had a what we call a preliminary hearing last week. So this is where we sit down with the court, obviously virtually, and they then decide what the issues in this particular case are, how long it's all going to take, and they then list it for a hearing. And that matter was listed for a hearing in November 2022.
Wow.
So that's how long, and that's for somebody who lost their job in October.
Blimey, that's a long time, isn't it? It's a long time sitting over, the shadows, sitting over the employee and the firm, and I mean that's got to cause a lot more undue stress and anxiety, I would say.
Yes, it does, and obviously a lot of uncertainty and anxiety for the business as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And cost.
Yeah, and cost. Yes,
Yeah.
Obviously. I mean, it's these things don't come cheap necessarily.
No.
But that's one of the things, in terms of moving sort of seamlessly into then what I do as sort of my business proposal is the fact that, well, what I try to do with my clients is to provide sort of fixed price solutions, so that then if they do end up with an employment tribunal claim, because yes, obviously complex ones take longer.
Yeah.
And I mean, this one that I was talking about involves whistleblowing, it involves health and safety, and so that's then going to that's a 3-day hearing that we're going to have in November 2022, all of the preparation that goes with it. And the cost of preparing a case like that, just in terms of the legal fees, would normally be in the order of about 10 up to £15,000, depending upon essentially depending upon how much correspondence there's going to be going backwards and forwards during the matter. But what I do is I offer a fixed price package to my clients. So at the beginning of the year, we say, right, this is the price, and you can use this as much as you like in order to essentially become integrated in the business, because that's what we like to do. We don't want people, our clients, ringing us up only when things are going wrong. We want to make sure that we're involved right from the outset to make sure that we're guiding them through to minimize the risk. Now, can never eliminate it, and of course, often you'll make informed business risk decisions in terms of what you want to do. But no matter what the outcome of that is, then within our package deals, then it means that you don't have any additional costs in relation to employment tribunals.
Yes.
So if somebody does bring a claim, then it doesn't cost the business anything.
That's fantastic for businesses, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, obviously there are insurance policies out there as well that you can get to do this, but this is just included within our package. And
but I suppose the difference between an insurance package and with the services that you do is that you actually become part of their, obviously,
exactly.
part of their business. You have a much better understanding. You're not being called into an event that's maybe preventable.
Yes.
That at the end, that you can be there right through the process and understand it, probably minimise the long-term costs of it anyway, because you've got to.
Because then what we can do is we can go, right, we've got option A, option B, option C, with different levels of risk, and then depending upon which option we then choose, then we can then decide to go down that option with an open mind as to what the risk is, but also managing that process to ensure that we're minimizing the risk that we know exists. And of course, even then, if the client decides to, well, I'm going to take the high risk approach, then we're still there.
That's really good. Really good.
Yeah, really, really good.
Just going to quickly give a shout out. Got a couple of people. Hello, Wojciech. Good to see you. Great to see you. Congratulations, Matt. All the best with your practice.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic.
Very kind.
Say a quick hello to Mino. Hi, Mino. Good to see you out there. And Mr. Zafran Khan. Hi, Zaf. Nice to see you out there.
Oh, fantastic. Yesterday, Zaf.
So I can see you have a podcast. Is that correct?
I do, yes. I have a podcast. I also have a YouTube channel, which is going to be receiving some new content very shortly, because at midday today we've actually got a webinar which we're running. So one of our regular employment law updates.
Okay,
so we run that as Yep. So as you can see, that's going to be kicking off in just over an hour's time.
That is today, isn't it? Yes.
That is today, yes.
Okay, so who should be the people attending this webinar?
Well, essentially anyone that is responsible for HR. So obviously within the larger businesses that have an HR resource, then that will be your HR managers and HR business partners. But within smaller businesses, then just simply anyone that manages people. I mean, yes, we do talk. I do talk a lot about law, so I talk about cases, and we get into a reasonable amount of detail. But hopefully, at least the aim is to explain it in a relatively straightforward and simple way, so that then we don't get bogged down in the law. It's not a webinar for lawyers, shall we say? Let's just put it that way. It's got a lot of law in it, but it's not for lawyers.
Fantastic. And how would someone find this webinar?
Right. Well, if you look on Eventbrite and search for Carbon Law Partners, you will find the event there. And also, if you can't make it at 12 o'clock today, which might be I appreciate that's very short notice indeed, but it will be being put on YouTube afterwards as well. So if you then just go onto my LinkedIn page, just find me on LinkedIn, and I'll be putting the links on there in due course as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, maybe
and of course, go to the podcast page, go to the YouTube page, and subscribe to them, and then you'll always be notified about them in the future.
Fantastic. Well, maybe after this, you could pop, if you've got time before the webinar, is to pop the links in the chat in case anyone watching live now wants to head to that webinar. That would be fantastic.
Can do so.
Brilliant. So obviously you got your webinar, you got your podcast, and things seems like they're ticking along nicely. What's the sort of medium long-term plan? Just build up your practice.
Just build it up. Yes. Just find some new great clients to work with, and I work with all sizes of businesses as well. So I've got a number of businesses that are quite small, and I've also got some much larger businesses, so 1,000 employee plus businesses as well that I work with as well. So it's all sorts of businesses, all sorts of sectors. Although my background is in engineering and manufacturing, I've worked with NHS trusts, care homes, all sorts of, just because people are people, and the law's the law. It doesn't really change a huge amount from type of business to type of business.
No, and I think everyone enters into it with the right intention. So, employers, contrary to what employees think, employ people for the right reasons.
Yes.
And employees go to work for companies for the right reasons.
Yes.
And I think sometimes the really good bit about having a Matt in between is that Matt keeps or tries to keep that relationship as positive as it was at the outset, rather than let people's time goes by, things get blown out of proportion, people make mistakes, things aren't written down, everything goes a bit wrong, and it just becomes messy, painful for everybody involved.
Yeah, and it's not actually that difficult to do it right. I mean, I don't want to dumb down my own job and what I advise people, but actually, it's not that difficult to get it right. It's difficult to dig yourself out of the hole once you've got it wrong.
Yes.
But it's not that difficult to get right.
Money well spent meeting with Mr. Matt. Now, one of the things about bringing someone externally into your business is that it can be quite daunting. So it's really important that people sort of get to know the inner Matt, so that they feel more comfortable bringing you into the business. So I just want to dig a little bit more into the inner Matt. So I'm going to play a short VT, and then you'll see it's going to ask you a question, Matt. So,
fire away. I'm intrigued now.
So Matt, what's your hidden talent?
It must be very hidden because it hasn't come to the fore yet. I play quite a bit of cricket during the summer.
Okay.
So I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm talented, but I'm still plugging away.
Yeah.
After 30 odd years of doing it.
Well, you must be
30 years. Wow. Do you play in a team or a village team?
Playing a team, I would say, yes. I mean, it's not necessarily a village team, but probably the standard is a village team. Without wishing to be rude to any of my teammates, but yeah. So every Saturday I do tend to disappear about midday, and then
lovely,
and then come back.
So if you're a cricket fan, get Matt involved to find out more, because it does, be part of the team and be able to work with other people and be normal and have a drink in the pub. It's that bit that you don't always see of HR people, and especially lawyers, etc. People think they're very dry and very serious all the time, and actually you've got a good time too. So it's quite nice. A couple of shout outs. Christina said, hi Christina, good to see you. And Me Now has said, lots of common sense in what you were saying.
Absolutely.
Yes. Hi, Minal. I have met Minal virtually before as well. So on another group that.
Which is great.
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic.
Very much worth a one-to-one.
You should have a chat with Zaf as well, Zafran Khan.
Yes.
Because he played for England, didn't he, Ed?
He was on the way to playing for England, but then he had a nasty accident which stopped him. But he still coaches and he was at the cricket yesterday. Very, very active cricket. So I think the two of you would have great conversations.
I certainly wouldn't want to play against him then.
Yeah, but yeah, he was on track. He'll tell you he was on track to play for England.
Wow.
Just
Well, I've only ever been on track for village cricket.
Fantastic.
Never say never, Matt. Never say never. You're going to get the call-up papers tonight. It could happen.
But if they have more COVID breakouts, then you never know.
So we're rapidly running out of time, Matt. So couple of questions. I guess, do you offer like a free consultancy, a free sort of meeting if someone thinks they might need your help, your services? Yep. Fantastic.
I'm absolutely happy to have exploratory chats and free chats and just a bit of advice to point people in the right direction.
Fantastic. And how would someone get hold of you?
They would get hold of me by my email address that's scrolling across the bottom, or the telephone number that's scrolling across the bottom. Those are two excellent ways of getting hold of me.
Fantastic. Nothing like a bit of pre-preparedness, I guess. So
and just another shout out for your webinar today at 12 o'clock. Pop along to carbonlawpartners.com. There's a bit to click and you can watch it.
Well, you go to the Eventbrite, but what I'll do is I'll put the actual direct link to the Microsoft Teams event in the chat, and then you don't need to book yourself on. Just click it and come in. And
brilliant. If you share on the WhatsApp groups of the Cobra Club.
Okay, we'll do.
Fantastic. Thank you ever so much, Matt. It's been great getting to know a bit more about you and your business today.
Thank you for having me.
And just wish you all the best with your event today.
Great.
So thank you, Matt. So coming up after this VT, we're going to have Tom Connor in the room from a B2B Trade Card. So here we go. Hello, Tom.
Morning, Tom. How are you? Good to see you.
Good. Is this your first time on any kind of live event on the internet?
I think it is. You're right, actually. Yeah. So a bit of pressure.
Your debut.
That's it. That's the one.
Pull the curtains back.
Sitting and waiting nervously in the wings.
Spielberg will be in touch later. You wait.
Fantastic. So, as obviously you've been listening to Matt there, and we asked the questions about sort of, a bit about your journey and a bit about B2B Trade Cards. So I wonder if you can tell us sort of, a bit about Tom, what your journey is and leading up to what B2B Trade Card is and how that all works.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, leading into where I am now then in my position, because I'm 5-6 months into this role now, so relatively new still. Really enjoying it, but yeah, a bit of a background in how I got here. So I've always worked in business development or sales in some way or another. And I started my career maybe at Virgin Media. It was probably the first time I had first targets and working. That was B2C at that stage. And I started that whilst I was at university doing business management. So I was juggling a new career with a lot of pressure, and I was enjoying it at the time as well. And also a few most difficult times in my life in terms of university and juggling those at the same time. But I really enjoyed it. I was somebody, even to this day, a lot of bad stigma is attached to sales or business development, and it's something that came naturally to me, I felt, and I really enjoyed. But then I didn't enjoy working in sales. When somebody asked, what do you do? And I would say, I work in sales. The stigma that gets attached, I used to it used to turn me off on that stage. So when I left university, I felt I did really well, and I came away and I thought, okay, I'm going to come away. I want to do something within business in terms of the corporate world, but realised that I had a real passion and a good understanding of sales and people management, and so I went back to it, and here I am. So I've worked in completely different industries. So I worked for Virgin Media, obviously that was B2C. Then they asked me to do a bit of B2B work for them, and I did my dissertation and my work experience with them. And then I went into the family business. They have got a racking company, so I did a lot of client facing at that stage and trying to develop the business in a completely different way. And then I moved into an engineering company which had pharmaceutical industry, fuel cells, food industry. So the amount of people I would meet in terms of having face-to-face appointments with was completely varied from in my younger years, to be honest. So I think it helped me for where I am now.
Fantastic. It sounds like a great little journey there, and you must have just, let's say, gained so much experience across different trades and different people and different situations, and so you found yourself back in the sales hot seat, so to speak, and obviously the pressures of being a sales guy is you probably other people don't recognize sort of the pressure on the salesperson to bring in bring in the business, and do you feel that? Do you thrive off that?
I do. That's a good point, to be honest, because when I was saying the most difficult times, obviously, was in my final year of university, and I was in a full year from January to December at Virgin Media, the first time I'd done a full calendar year, and the pressure was immense. But in terms of the quality that came out of it, I didn't realise at the time. I ended up coming away with a first in business management. I also got 2 national awards for Virgin Media as well. Got myself a nice trip to Bahamas. So I realised, okay, this is an industry that you should be in, and the pressure I need to invite a lot more. So I just like throwing myself in the deep end in terms of going for particular roles or in terms of situations that I've been in my work life, and I seem to thrive off those situations. So yeah, I agree with that.
Fantastic. Sounds really good. And so now you've rocked up a B2B trade card. Can you tell us all a bit about what this business is and who should be looking at this business?
Yeah, cool. B2B, like I say, I started about 5-6 months ago, and they approached me, and when they told me the business model, and I seen what they do in terms of helping business owners, with my business management background and me being able to help the family business, I was able to see, okay, this is a brilliant opportunity, and jumped at the opportunity as well. So yeah, B2B, they help business owners to do 2 things really. First, grow the business through an advertising platform, which is pretty unique. I'll go into that a bit more detail, and also help reduce tax in the same breath. So they're 2 things which, if you could say to a business owner, you want to help grow your business and also can reduce your tax at the same time, obviously it becomes a no-brainer and people want to learn a bit more. So it's a really enjoyable position to be in for myself, obviously, because I'm able to promote this and see how that affects them personally. So my job is split into 2 really. I'll either partner with accountants, or I will jump on networks similar to Cobra and speak to business owners directly. So I'm able to enjoy both sides of that really. But to give a bit of an insight on B2B, so like I mentioned, those 2 things, we can advertise your business and help reduce your tax. So how do we do that? B2B's got an exclusive online advertising platform. So by exclusive, I mean it's member driven. You have to be a member to be on the platform. Currently got over 3,500 members, all business owners and directors, all profitable businesses advertising their business with each other on the platform. Now, what makes us unique is that we have a loyalty and rewards program attached to the platform. The same way that Tesco have a club card, or Avios give their air miles, same loyalty reward program. In our case, you purchase advertising and we reward back we have these prepaid MasterCards. Now, our USP is that we reward back at 80% of the advertising spend, and that goes directly back to the business owner personally. So the company will purchase advertising, but they personally will get the reward of 80% of the spend. Now, the difference with our points is that you can spend our points anywhere that accepts the MasterCard logo. So anything from a coffee to a car, a holiday, and now we're back allowed. So it's really exciting for the business owner because the company's going to get the growth from the advertising, then they also get a personal benefit themselves. So that's really appealing for the business owners. If they're in a position,
what kind of companies are advertising on this platform?
anything from it could be a one-man band, which is a drafting wills, up to say a pharmaceutical company with 400 employees. So the industries are completely varied. The beauty of it is that all the benefits apply to all business owners. So regardless if you're a one-man band or you've got a team of 100, you're still going to receive the advertising on a unique network of business owners and all decision makers, 80% back personally. And then on top, which I've not touched on yet, with it being advertising, you'll also get 19% corporation tax relief. So a lot of companies we've found aren't doing any form of advertising at all, or didn't have any interest in advertising. But obviously we roll back 80%, they get 19% corporation tax relief. At the risk of 1%, it's a really lucrative platform, and it comes very appealing for business owners that haven't took that jump into advertising at that point.
Yeah, that sounds really good. And I guess the business has to be profitable to go on there. I take it.
Yeah, profitable or at a stage where you've got a marketing spend or an advertising budget. The majority of companies are profitable, yeah. Just because it makes a lot more sense, they can invest a lot more in advertising, they get a lot more return on their investment personally and for the company. So the regular customer is usually a limited company, with them being VAT registered as a VAT charge, with it being an advertising cost. But yeah, profitable limited company looking to either advertise, be more tax efficient with the spend, or reduce the corporation tax, which all three are really appealing.
Yeah, very much so. If you've got £1,000 to give to the government, you may as well get 800 quid back in your pocket, and then 20% back as tax relief. So actually, instead of paying the government £1,000, you end up paying them whatever that is, £100.
100%. So there's a huge contrast in the spend, and we're going into, just give you a bit of background.
But it's money people are going to spend anyway, isn't it? So instead of spending it that way, getting nothing back for it, well, services and all the tax, I'm not saying employee tax, you actually get that cash physically yourself to spend.
Yeah, so through B2B, you can do 10% of your company's total revenue. So that falls in line with reasonable advertising spend. Not advocating completely replacing dividends or completely replacing salary. That's not what we're advocating at all. It's just if you're not doing any advertising, there's a great opportunity to do up to 10% of your revenue, generate some brand awareness, and also get a return back personally. So it's just to have those conversations with people, just to see what they're doing currently and how we can help them, really. But just to give you a bit of background on B2B, they're going into their 7th year now. And we're currently partnered with over 450 accountants. So it's something that's growing day by day, with the help of networks similar to Cobra, and able to have them one-to-ones. And they're essential, really, because we screen share the platform, talk them through the advertising. It makes a lot more sense at that point. But yeah, great opportunity.
I've got a question here. There's someone typed a question called Nicola. Yeah. Tom, how have you... Oh, hi, Nicola. How are you? Hope you're well. Tom, how have you seen B2B sales change during your career? And what is your top tip for those of us selling our services to other businesses?
Good question. Really good question. So I'd say obviously last year was a huge impact on the whole economy, never mind just over the last couple of years. So it's been an interesting one to see that although there's been a lot of doom and gloom and people have been struggling to stay afloat, there's a lot of people that are really thriving and are looking for the opportunities and taking those. So in terms of selling your services to other businesses, it's going in with that optimistic and positive mindset of that. It's easy to have your own limiting beliefs sometimes that, oh, these people aren't going to be in a position to buy our services or our product. But if you've got real value there and you're able to put it across in a manner in which is genuine and their interest or their intention, their best in mind even, I think that's all you need to do, really. It's just having the opportunity to speak to those people, but it's being optimistic and don't let your own beliefs hinder your own process.
Brilliant. Great advice.
Very, very, very clever. It's a lovely system. So I'm always interested with salespeople because I like to class myself in that bracket. As you go through life, different things motivate you to do different things. So it's very interesting to me who motivates people, who's their inspiration behind what they do. So I'm going to run a VT, and I'm going to ask you that same question. Who's your inspiration, Tom?
Good question. This might sound a bit cheesy, but I would say when I first started off in my career, I would achieve something and I wouldn't feel like the satisfaction from it until I've got older and been able to look back and feel like, okay, I've achieved this and I've achieved this. So I think the only reason I'm in like a stressful or a target-driven environment is because I motivate myself. Otherwise, I can't really get motivation from external, if I'm being completely honest. So I would say myself, just from looking back and say, okay, you've achieved that, so you can kick on and do a lot more. I would go with myself, to be honest. Might be a bit big-headed, but
I think you're egotistical about that at all. No, I'm joking. But actually, you know, in the world of sales, it can be a very lonely place, can't it, Tom? So it's one of those things that you have to have a very strong.
Yeah, sorry, because it's constantly like each month your targets are, or there's a new business goal at the end of it. It's hard to say to look back on it until you at least a few years past. So yeah, I would just say to keep looking back at what you've actually achieved. Take a step back and say, okay, give yourself a pat on the back. Something I struggle to do sometimes, to be present, and then just be happy with where you're moving. As long as you're progressing, then that's motivating. So I'll go with myself.
Fantastic.
Really good.
Yeah, no, really, really good. So Tom, if someone, I take it, you know, you offer a free consultation. How does it all work?
Yeah, 100%. Especially on networking, I understand. Say, for example, I do a 60 seconds. I wouldn't expect anybody on planet Earth to understand what we do or the true benefits. So it's more just if any of the free benefits are mentioned. If you want to grow your business, if you want to reduce your tax, if you want to find out anything else about what we do, then we'll arrange a conversation. I can talk you through a few benefits. So probably give me an email or drop me a message on LinkedIn. I'm happy to.
So that leads to the next question. How would someone get hold of you?
Exactly that. So I would say email or LinkedIn. There you go again. Really well prepared there, Andrew. So yeah, across the bottom there. Thank you.
He's on form.
You know, yeah, no, all good. Well, it's been great sort of having you on the show and sort of finding out a bit more. You know, I'm still trying to work out sort of B2B and how it all works, but I think the more you meet and the more you speak and the more you hear the testimonials, the clearer it comes.
I think if you're paying tax in a business, really should have a chat to Tom, because if you can use that tax money that you're going to spend anyway more efficiently and more effectively, why would you not? Even if that money you've got back, you could spend back on the business again, so you can have double whammy for the money.
Exactly. That's why we partner with accountants, to be honest, and it works so well for us, because if we have a conversation with business owners, they really like what we do, they'll sometimes often look to their accountants. So we partner with accountants for that reason. So if we had a conversation and you felt, okay, this is something that you'd want me to introduce to your accountant, that by all means, that's what we're comfortable doing with 100%. So just to give people a heads up.
I think it's really useful. Thank you so much for your time.
Brilliant. Okay, just let me hit this button, and when we come back, we are going to have the incredible Mr. Nicholas Holmes on the show. So what I'm going to do now is hit one of these VTs, and I'm going to play this. Actually, I'm going to play this one first.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hatchman. It's interesting when you speak to people like Tom, and he says quite rightly so. It's very difficult when you're in the moment to judge yourself, because you can only really do that historically where you're going to be. So I'm going to use Diana Ross today as my example. So what Diana Ross says is, instead of looking at the past, I put myself ahead 20 years. And try to look at what I need to do now in order to get there. So if you have a firm vision of what you want to achieve, you can then start to build a pathway to get to that point in time. And that might involve training, motivation, learning, whatever you need. And so again, as I'm going to bring this to Andrew Hatcher into this conversation like this. Because one of the things that if you can't visualize where you're going to be next month, in a year's time, in 10 years' time, that's not a problem. But you probably need to sit down and talk to someone like a guide who can give you a map or a pathway on how to get to where you want to get to. And if you have that map, it makes it far easier to get there easily because you know the route. So if you can visualize where you want to get to, you're more likely to achieve it. Now, some of those dreams might need to go in stages because, you know, it's difficult to see yourself as a multi-billionaire when you're only earning 500 quid a week. But you need to be able to map it out. So I would really encourage people to spend time with people like Mr. Andrew Hatcher, who is a business consultant, who can sit down and ask the questions that maybe are difficult for you to answer yourself so that you can move forwards and you can change what you're going to do. I don't know how you feel about that, Andy.
Absolutely. Having that guide, you know, that sounding board, thresh out those ideas and work a plan going forward. You know, some people struggle with coming up with ideas and plan, and that's the whole point of having someone to guide you along the way. You know, it's what we do, it's what we're trained to do. So I always recommend someone taking some advice. You know, myself, plenty of the coaches, business advisors. I'm part of the IBD Business Network Initiatives and Business Development. So there's plenty of support out there for small businesses.
I totally agree, and failure isn't a problem. Failure is a judgment that you make upon yourself, and you put that judgment on yourself depending on what you've said to other people and where you place yourself. So if you've actually got a structured goal that's realistic, that actually is achievable, you'll find yourself hitting success. So I'm in the world of sales like Tom is, and you get new salespeople coming into the team, and typically I've always been at the top of the team, luckily, so I've done well. And they'll always say, what I want to do is get to where you are, which is the number one position. And that's fine, I wish they would. However, the likelihood of someone coming from the bottom of the team to the top of the team instantly, it isn't maybe the best way of, the best goal to set yourself. So set yourself goals that are achievable so that you can get there. And by the way, that's how I got there. Yeah, and that can only evolve in talking to other people and to working together to achieve your goals.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks for those wise words.
Wise words. But I do have a question for you. Because we're in a club full of what I consider to be heroes, unfortunately, the decision on your shoulders this week is, who is your hero of the week, Andrew?
My hero of the week is Hannah, who does all our videos. Does an incredible job. She's juggling 20,000 jobs at any one time, dealing with children's mental health and well-being, supporting parents, as well as doing, let's say, her marketing job and other bits and pieces she's going on. So true inspiration, and helps us out with all our videos on here. Which I'm going to play those now. I'm going to play one of those, and when we come back, Nicholas Holmes will be in the room. So here we go.
Nick, how are you? You're muted, my friend. But good to see you. I'll unmute you.
I thought I'd mute myself just in case I said anything.
It's your sworn to come out.
Just going to say too much, actually.
How's life treating you, Nicholas? You've been on the show a few times now, and is this your third time or second time? I can't.
Second time, yeah. No, life's really.
He's going to click his fingers, and we're going to start taking items.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you second that anyway?
Let me get my watch or pen.
So
it's funny to say that, actually. Some of my colleagues and peers went on a stage hypnosis course the other week, and it was quite interesting. But I didn't go myself, of course, because
Fantastic. So for the people that don't know what you do, I wonder if you could let them know what your business is and yeah, how you go about it, and maybe like say a little bit about your journey would be great.
Yeah, it's interesting listening to Matt. Actually, my journey is very similar in some respects. I'm a hypnotherapist, psychotherapist, so it combines psychotherapy with hypnosis. So instead of working with the conscious brain, we work the subconscious brain in a totally ethical and relaxation way, not the same as stage hypnosis where people get up and walk about like clucking chickens. We don't do that, and we can't do that. And that's another story altogether. So that's what I do. I help people with mind health issues. Now, that could be anything from sports performance. It's interesting what you're talking about visualization, because 10% of sports performance is physical and 90% of it is mental. And when we can visualize, and your discussion with Matt about visualization is so important, especially, Ed, as you know, the brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. So if we practice and practice and repetition, we can imagine ourselves in 5, 15, 20 years to be the person we want to be. And this is how we help clients. So I help clients either in group work or individual work change their limiting beliefs. So when we're born up until about the age of 6 or 7, that's when we form our major core beliefs. And that comes from our trusted advisors, such as parents, teachers, or our friends, and also by repetition. So at the age of 6 or 7, we've got these core beliefs, and often these can come out when we're adults. So often with our limiting beliefs such as you'll never be able to do that, you're stupid, you're fat, which I had the other day from one of my clients, you're ugly.
They said that to you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, now, actually, one of my beliefs from one of my reports is Nick could try a lot harder. And to be fair, yeah, I could. I think looking at my backgrounds, as a childhood, we were brought up. We didn't have a lot of money, myself and my twin sister, my brother. But as we grew up, we had these beliefs in our background that money was so important that we had to look after whatever we had. So when we got bought a pair of shoes, that was the pair of shoes that had to last us for several years, and that was it. Or whenever obviously we grew out of them. But we were brought up these core values. So I still have that core value in myself that if I buy something, and you guys will relate to this if you've got your favourite spanner or your drill. I mean, I recently, my drill packed up after 28 years, and I was hanging on to it. Even then, I took it apart and tried to fix it. So these core beliefs we have stay with us, and I always look after my possessions. That's something I always look at my parents back and think, I'm glad that you instilled that belief in me. So what happens is we have these beliefs, and it becomes a pattern in our brain. So what we do is we change this pattern. And this pattern is actually a physical connection in the brain. So when we have a thought, it's not something that's in the ether. It's not something spiritual. It is actually electrical connections in the brain. So what we can do is we can change that thought. And when we change that limiting belief to a positive belief, we actually stop sending electrical signals to that limiting belief, and it dies off. It physically dies off in the brain. And then we can open these new positive beliefs, and that's how we move forward into the future. And again, this number I keep repeating to everyone, with atoms in the universe is 10 to the 87th power. Possible neural connections in the brain is 10 to the trillionth power.
Wow.
So you can imagine that. And when we say that we have the capacity to be anything or do anything we want, that's what it's referring to. We can create all these new neural pathways in the brain. It's absolutely, the number is almost infinite. You can't even put that number into a computer. So
I guess over time, some of these, natural self-limiting beliefs, they drop off by themselves, don't they? I mean, when I used to think...
they can drop off by themselves if it's not something that's really kind of fundamental to our core belief. They can drop off because things. Sorry.
No, I want to ask you a question. Why are people who know they're doing something to harm themselves, and in a rational conversation would say, "I'm doing something to harm myself and I'd like to stop"? Why don't they? So that could be something like smoking. I get some addiction, but it could also be a self-limiting belief. So some people will say, "Well, I never do that because," and actually, there's no logical reason to that. They'd tell you there's no logical reason to it, but there's. Why do people hold on to these negative beliefs inside themselves? Why don't they? What makes us do that?
because again, it's exactly that. It's a pattern in the brain. It's the same way that people who are abused often go back to the abuser. So an example, and I've seen a couple of cases where women have been, I know men get abused as well, but just talk about women have been abused. They go back into abusive relations because it becomes a habit pattern. It's what they're used to, and their brain always wants to go back to what it's used to.
Even though they know that's bad.
Yeah, even consciously we know it, but subconsciously that is a pattern that we're used to, and we become used to it. It's the same if you abuse as a child, you end up abusing your children. It often happens. That's because it's a habit pattern in the brain. We're used to that kind of behaviour, so we reflect that behaviour in our children.
Massive.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
And how long does it take to change these neural pathways or these electrical connections? Is it sort of a 3-year process? Is it done in half an hour? I mean, how does it all work?
Yeah, well, particularly if you imagine a child is like a small plant in the garden. So you've just got this new weed growing in the garden, and you plant a seed, you plant an idea in the brain, and it's like a flower. So if that's a limiting belief, you can pluck the flower quite easy. It's quite easy to pull out of the ground. But if you've had that limiting belief for many years, that flower starts to become like a little tree, then a bigger tree, almost like an oak tree. So sometimes it can take quite a bit of effort to get that oak tree out of the ground.
Yeah.
However, even with some of my clients, I've had a client who was on anti-anxiety medication for 15 years.
Cool.
We were talking, imagine we started talking today. Within 5 minutes of my first chat with her, she had a panic attack and had to go and lay down for 10 minutes. She came back and we started initial consultation. But after 4 weeks, she'd actually managed to stop her anxiety medication. She actually started smiling again. She'd actually started going out the house the first time in 15 years on her own. So it can be quite quick, but it really depends on the individual. It depends on them turning up and wanting to be a part of the process. And if they get involved in the process, then we can see quite quick results.
Yeah, I guess with these sorts of, I don't know, but do you have to want to, if someone tells you you're off to go and see Nicholas and they don't want to, it's never going to work, is it? I mean, you have to be you have to want, don't you?
Yeah. Most I don't. When I get a client, I've always had success with a client, but if a client doesn't come to me, it's often because somebody said, "Oh, go to Nicholas because he's a great hypnotherapist. He'll sort you out." And these people don't believe or don't have this kind of willing to come to me, this willingness. So when they come, they don't come to me. I've had 2 or 3 this week who were going to come to me and didn't come to me because somebody else suggested them that they should come to me and get help. Because our brain will see it as an error. Because we have, I think I've spoken about this before, but I'll remind you what it is. We have what's called a conscious critical faculty in the brain. And that pattern matches everything that we're used to. So if we say something to our brain, let's say, for example, we have this belief that we're stupid. If we see something that proves we're clever, the brain will go, hang on, this filter kicks in and goes, hang on, Nick, you're not clever, you're stupid. We've got this pattern. So it actually filters out this information. In the same way that a client will come to me, if they don't come of their own free will, the brain's going, hang on, we don't need to go and see Nick because we don't need sorting out, I'm fine. They have to kind of accept the fact that there's something that they need sorting out, and they have to come of their own free will.
And sometimes I presume it's not always hypnotherapy that's the right cure. Sometimes it's consultation or counselling. It may be a different that you decide when you meet them. It doesn't, just because you can do it doesn't mean that I can go and see a surgeon doesn't mean he's actually going to open me up. I can have a consultation without actually doing things I don't want to do, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I use several different techniques. Part of it is based on CBT. A lot of it is based on solution-focused brief therapy, which claims to be able to sort people out in sometimes as much as little as 1 session, but they don't use hypnosis. I also use neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, and we use that for phobias. And it's a good example you said, Andrew, about not being able to fix people if they don't want to. I had a client came to me, was kind of scared of driving on motorways after having like a horrific accident. But all the time through the consultation, through the treatment, he said, this isn't going to work, this isn't going to work, this isn't going to work. And he was fighting all the time. He also had a high level of anxiety. And it was in my early days when I started out. But because I didn't remove his general anxiety first, he was always anxious about it. So, of course, unfortunately, it didn't work. because all the time his primitive brain was saying this isn't going to work, this isn't work, and lo and behold, it didn't work. Until we can change that limiting belief, and we have to change it by reducing somebody's anxiety first, and then we can fix the phobia. So it's all about moving this limiting belief and turning this conscious critical faculty off, which is where hypnosis comes in. What we manage to do is to turn this filter off. And I'll give an example of the conscious critical faculty. If you're watching a movie, let's imagine you're watching a horror movie. It is often quite upsetting, isn't it? What actually happens, because you're watching a movie, the brain says, oh, hang on, Ed, I know that's a movie. I don't need to filter that information. It actually turns that filter off. So that information goes straight into your emotions, into your subconscious. That's why we can get scared at a horror movie. We can get upset at a rom-com, because it actually turns that filter off in the brain. And it says, that's an example of the conscious critical faculty and how it works.
Brilliant. I've got a question come in. Let's see if you can answer this one.
Okay.
Nick.
Oh yeah, no, definitely, yeah. No, it's not about. I mean, to me, there isn't such a thing as mental health illness. I call it mind health, and when we're talking about mind health, I'm actually talking about your primitive brain. The primitive brain works in two ways. It's there to protect you or save energy. It doesn't say to you, okay, Andy, you're mentally ill today. Here's a label. I'm going to make you mentally ill for the rest of your life. Your brain's just doing what it's supposed to do. It's to save energy, because we start the day with about 500 calories of glucose energy we call willpower. So if your brain can save energy and refer to a previous pattern of behavior, rather than send it to your intellectual brain, which got to work out the solution, it will go to a previous pattern. It's like a RAM drive. It will go to the nearest bit of information it can. And if it can find a limiting belief, it will grab onto it. So your brain's just there to save energy or save your life. So yeah, we can work with anyone. I work with sports people, and there's nothing wrong with them. It's just that they want this extra motivation to improve their sports. And they say 90% of sports is mental health, and 10% is physical. So if you can fix the mind, so we work with people who improve their golf swings, their tennis swings, how they play in football. I mean, the England football team, for example, look at how they played against Denmark.
That was all down to you.
Yeah, I wish it was. I'm going to give Gareth Southgate a call. I just joking. But I mean, with Denmark, they were like a different team. But with Italy, I could actually see physically, and I'm not 100% sure, but I'm 99% sure that their attitude had changed.
I agree.
I saw that announcement. Someone said they were treating the ball like a grenade and running away from the ball, because they seem to be afraid of Italy. And that's just all in the head. That's not their physical ability, because we know what Raheem Sterling can do. We know what Grealish can do. We know what Kane can do. So it's all to do with the head. So yeah, we can work with people who come to us with confidence issues. I worked with a guy who had one session and he couldn't get a job, and after that he got two job offers. So yeah, it's confidence is a lot of the issues. Weight management, fertility, another big area that we work with clients with. It's fertility is often affected a lot by stress.
Really?
Particularly people on IVF. It's an incredibly, Ed, with your medical background, it's an incredibly invasive and stressful experience. So,
and costly.
Yeah, exactly. And costly. So there's all these financial aspects and health issues and invasive.
I suppose with a lot of things also, it's giving people the positives that they can look forward to. Things like, things to aim for, things to achieve, to get to, and rewarding yourself is quite important. And I think certainly with the last year, 18 months worth of lockdown, that holidays are becoming quite an important thing for people. So I'm going to play a short BT. I'm interested to hear your view on it, mate. I love the tenuous bit of my lips. So Nick, if you could choose a holiday destination, visualize it, where would you like to be?
If I could choose a holiday destination right now,
yeah,
I would say I'm really missing the Lake District. Honestly, I love walking. I refound the Lake District about 5 years ago. Honestly, I remember last time I was there, I walked up to Scarfell Pike to the top, And it took us 7 hours to get up and down. Honestly, I felt so good the next day. I just felt alive, and it was incredible. I mean, to be fair, I'm going to Crete in the next month, so yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. But no, honestly, to me at the moment, I mean, the UK, and it's not about staycation. I just love everything the Lake District offers. The nature, the water, the people are lovely. The atmosphere, it's just such a serene and calming place. And for me, that gets my serotonin going, which is our most important neurotransmitter, our happy chemical. When I've got that going, I'm just, I can take on the world.
Brilliant. Fantastic. So one last question, Nick. I take it you offer a free sort of consultation if someone's interested. And how does someone get hold of you?
Yeah, well, somebody can get hold of me at newdaynewyou.uk or info.ndny.uk or obviously my phone number that is there, 078316243. It does appear like magic. Exactly. I whisked that onto the screen. There you go. Yeah, so no, I offer a free consultation, and I'll also give away a free guided relaxation file, which replicates REM sleep. When we sleep during our REM sleep, it removes the emotions from our memories of the day. So it's equivalent to about 4 hours of REM sleep. So in fact, I shouldn't say this, but I do. Some of my clients have actually taken the CD or the MP3 file and my free consultation and not come back because that's helped. So it's quite a powerful. I take half.
I would have thought you would have had something in there like buy my CD, buy my services.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, here's my bank account number. Just give me some money.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Well, no, I take the time to explain how the brain works, because when we know how something works, we're halfway to fixing it. I mean, you wouldn't take your car into a garage and then fix it and say, well, here's the bill for 600 quid. Okay, fine, I'll take it. You want to know what they've done. So when I explain to people how the brain works, often that's enough for them to go, oh my God, I know now it's not me that's mentally ill, it's my brain just trying to save my life or save energy. So it's a big
It's quite interesting when you do know. I mean, for me, dieting is a good example of that. If I understand why my body's doing what it's doing, then I can either choose to ignore that and eat a big packet of Monster Munch, or I can say, I know what's going on here, and I know why, and I know how I can cure that, and it changes the whole process to actually be not a pleasure, but something I'm actually not a bad thing like it used to be.
Yeah, no, exactly, and again, just come on to weight management is a big issue that's affected by stress and anxiety. Either underweight or overweight. And once we understand that, again, our brain is just trying to find us fat or sugar if we're stressed, because it doesn't know where its next meal's coming from. Back in our caveman days, it used to store fat and sugar because it thinks, well, if we're out fighting, we might not be able to eat for 24 hours. So it just go and grab that piece of donut, that bit of chocolate. So that's what our brains. So our brain's there to save us one way or another. So as soon as we understand that, and it's not our fault, we feel like we do. It's quite easy to fix.
It's very, very clever. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, fantastic. Pleasure as always, so informative. And yeah, if anyone wants to get hold of Nicholas, all the details have been up on the screen. Please do give Nicholas a call.
Or just come into the Cobra Club, www.thecobraclub.co.uk, and all the members' details are there, and you can have one-to-ones with people. You can go along to the network meetings and continue these conversations in person with people.
Absolutely. So what I'm going to do now, Ed, as we wave goodbye to Nicholas, we're going to go straight into the weekly events. So we'll see you soon, Nicholas. Take care.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Thanks,
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Well, the first of those events I was talking to is Monday Motivation. Happens 9 o'clock on Monday morning. Come along and be motivated. Get your diary full with me.
Fantastic. Then next up we have Christie's Virtual Coffee Club every Monday from 3 to 4 p.m. Grab a coffee and log on.
Oh, and then you can come and see the wonderful Hannah Matarazzo creating these stunning videos and Cobra Creative at 4 o'clock on a Monday, 4 till 5.
Fantastic. Then Monday evening, Mr. Zafran Khan introducing Monday Mayhem every Monday, 7:30 to 8:30 p.m.
And Tuesday morning, fresh as a daisy, pop along to Quest West Business Networking with Judith West, 10:30 to 11:30.
Fantastic. Then we have Tantalising Tuesday with Tantalising Taylor, the business parent godmother herself, on every Tuesday, 12 to 1 p.m.
And then pop along to Cobra Office. You can think to everyone's here in the office. 1:30 to 2:30 with the inspiration of Victoria Woods.
Fantastic. Then we have incredible Katrina Ellis from Ironman Cobra TT Titan Troubleshooting every Tuesday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m.
Oh, and then on a Wednesday between 2 and 3:30, pop along to Hive Mastermind and bring your business problems and get them solved.
Fantastic. Then we have the incredible Rian Anstey up on the top of Snowdon Summit every Wednesday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. in the Cobra Club.
And then the big one, the mother of all network meetings, on a Wednesday evening, 7 till 9. Bring a drink and come and join your host, Mr. Andrew Hatcher, every Wednesday, 7 till 9.
Fantastic. Just like saying, Matt Huggett's on the show tonight. So that'd be good. And then every Thursday, 10 a.m. to 11:30, Cobra Connect with John Foy.
And then the follow-up act with the live link up with Barry Hunt every Thursday, 1 till 2 o'clock.
Fantastic. Then we have Mr. Chris Mason of Cobra Strike, weekly on Thursday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Businesses in Essex.
And then come and join Louise Montblanc every morning, not Friday morning I should say, between 8 and 9 o'clock. Have some fish and chips down the line Regis on the beach.
Cool. And then following straight after that, Mr. Shane Yates with the full Welsh breakfast every Friday from 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
Oh, and then one of our new clubs, the Cobra Express, with Alan Cannon, leaves the station every Friday at 10 till 3:30.
Last but not least, the incredible Sharon Ritchie with Wind Down Friday, the last event of the week, 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. In the Cobra Club. So we'll see you there.
See you there.
Oh, that was quick.
See you there. How fantastic is that? Some great events there coming up.
Yeah, no, it's been a great show, isn't it? So plenty going on in the club. New clubs opening up. Well done to Katrina and Alan Cadden for Cobra TT and Cobra Express.
Great.
Fantastic to see those up and running. And just so much going on in the club every week. So how would someone find out about the club, Ed?
Well, they'd pop along to www.thecobraclub.co.uk where you can book a virtual tour. So come along and Andy and I will show you around the club and tell you all about it. Or pop onto Eventbrite and if you want to come to an event, you can come for free tonight to Meeting Talents and come and meet us and we'll show you how good our networking is in an evening. Yeah, like that.
That's really good. And I just want to say big thanks to all the guests. I want to say thanks to everyone who's commented and has watched today and has joined in. Just really appreciative of all your support and make the show what it is. So I think, Ed, it's over and out, I think. So see you next week, guys. Over and out. Goodbye, all.
Now you're watching me, yeah, all eyes on me, 'cause I've been living the good life. So come fly with me into my fantasy, and we be loving the good life, good life.
I think this dream now just hit me. Why don't you just go there with me? Surf in the skies and splash in the clouds, dance in the crowds and laugh out loud. Holding your hand, unfolding a plan. Two souls in a land like gold in a pan. Float in the breeze or soak in the sea. Come go there with me where we both wanna be. Lie on the beach or fly in the streets. I'm trying to keep this vine in the reach. Putting everything I do aside, me and you approach. We can travel to the very end of the universe. You and me are meant to be divine energy. Living with no rules in a pool of serenity. Come be my fantasy, go away with me. Lock us up in a dream and throw away the key. Come on, live this up now. Good life, good laugh, good love now. Come on, live this with me. Good laugh, good love, we live free. Come on, live this up now. Good life, good laugh, good love now. Come on, live this with me. Good laugh, good love, we live free. We need to rise with these new eyes. Pull the disguise off of these blue skies. Lights in the city reflect off the shoreline. When you're living this life, you want more time. Rewind the time, align planets. Ride this comet to a new dynamic. Your eyes on me, mine on you. Living the good life, we do what we want.